All right. Okay, so I want to wrap. It's getting a little wet out here, so bear with me if I fall down. But hopefully you can see I have the base here. Okay. I just want to talk about primary and secondary primary leads and how that depends with less than 2 outs or with 2 outs, right? So less than 2 outs, we're in college, fellas, so no outs and 1 out. 2 outs, all right? There's no more greater than 2 outs. It's just 2 outs, all right? So the rule of thumb that I gave you last week was that. So I want you to look at this as if get my angle right here. You're the pitcher, okay, and I'm at second base. Okay, I'm the runner at second base. Right, third base will be to your left on the screen and to that direction for me. So to my right, obviously. Okay, so set shortstop could be anywhere in between here. You can use the tree, you can use the speaker, whatever you want to use as your reference point in that spot. All right, so with 1 out, okay, I like to take my lead off the front corner of the base. Okay, that's the one that's kind of going to give me that little bit of an angle, but not too steep of an angle. The back corner, the one closest to center field, okay, the one closest to center field is going to be the one that's going to give me my angle with 2 outs. Okay, why am I going to use the back corner with 2 outs? Because it's going to get me allowed to be deeper, and I'm going to finish inside the baseline on the diagonal. The inner one, the inner corner, the one closest, like as if I'm going to line up with the shortstop. Okay, that's the one that's going to allow me to stay inside the baseline, but yet keep my feet moving towards third base. Okay, now same thing with left foot off the bag or right foot off the bag, as we talked about in part 1 last week. Depending on how you want to come off and how aggressive you want to be. Okay, I'm a big believer that you're never going to break down into this position. You always want to stay tall and keep your feet moving. Okay, remaining in an athletic position. Your job in this sense would be as the pitcher here to stop my feet from moving. That's what's going to stop me, not the middle infielders. You're going to stop me, okay? And as the third base coach, again, we talked about my commands. My commands were you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. If I want you to stop, I'm going to say stick. So very, very similar to how we did the cutoffs and relays a couple of weeks ago, okay? So my primary lead off the bag here with less than 2 outs, I'm going to probably just walk off the base with my left foot on the base, right foot off here, and now I'm going to square myself around, and I'm going to make sure I'm tall, and I'm going to just keep picking up 6 inches every time my third base coach tells me you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. So if I'm yelling you're okay, you're going to just keep your feet moving. Now you want to move those feet in a diagonal on the way to third base, okay? You're going to finish somewhere probably inside the baseline, okay? Now you don't want to get too big of a primary in this sense, because that's our opportunity to do that in our secondary. So guys who've played with me before, you've heard me say, shorten the primary, expand your secondary. A lot of times guys will get too big of a primary, okay? And then they want to take their secondary. And they want to take, if you're going to take an aggressive primary, you're probably going to take an aggressive secondary, right? So in that same thought process, you're real vulnerable here. You're vulnerable to a primary pick, which is what I call primary pick is from the pitcher, or you're vulnerable from a secondary back pick from the catcher. Okay, so primary pick coming from the pitcher, secondary pick coming from the catcher. You're real vulnerable in both those. Okay, because if you take that big primary and you expand into a huge secondary, now if the catcher picks the second, I'm not even going to advise you to probably go back there. You should probably continue to advance to third base and take your chance there, because now you're going to play the math game, right? You're going to play the math game where the catcher's now going to throw the ball 126 plus to get it down to second base. Now the second baseman or shortstop's going to need to relay that throw 90 feet now to third base. Okay, and now you're talking about 210 feet in the amount of time that you're going to need to run, probably when you're done with your secondary, roughly 75 or less feet to get to third base in that spot. So I would always advise, if that happens and you're able to follow the play with your eyes, go to third base in that spot. You get back pick, you got that. That's the product of it. So I think that's the best way to try and defend that as an offense. If you do get secondary pick from the catcher in that spot, the other thing in that span of time where read the catcher's eyes if you can. I know he's got the mask on, but in that sense, if the catcher does come out and tries to run at you, that's a tough spot, because we're going to probably get it into a rundown. Maybe that's a slot where we may actually have to go back to second, because now the catcher is going to have to restructure himself to make a longer throw to second base. When if they're looking to go to if you're going to third, it's like you're in that line of sight, right? So if you're the Now you're the catcher in that spot, and you're looking at me. I gotta come out to run at you, and you're in between here. Now the second baseman's covering the bag. Now, and the third baseman's on the bag. I'm just gonna make my nice easy throw 90 feet and nail you at third base. Where now, if I get you here and I come out and run at you, now I got to turn my whole body off to close off to get you at second base. So it's probably a more difficult throw. So if you feel like you're dead in that spot, never going to really advise to go back to the base, but in that sense, it might actually benefit you in that spot. Okay, so talk a little bit about primary, secondary picks. Primary from the pitcher, secondary from the catcher. So again, primary lead, walking off the front part of the base. I'm going to make sure I take my lead, eyes up on the pitcher at all times. He has the baseball. Okay, I'm walking myself into the baseline. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Now, I'm not going to try and gain so much ground where, like I said, shorten your primary, expand your secondary here, because that's for your opportunity to really live dangerously in that spot. Because if a line drive comes through, you need to make sure you're stepping back on a line drive, okay? It's not so much as freeze on a line drive as it is so much as to step back, because you want to make sure you step back, because if you don't, if you get to that point and you try and advance, you're done. All right, you're done. The ball's you're not gonna be able to outrun the ball there, especially if it's a line drive to one. The infielders, depending on their positioning. Okay, so just to back up, we're at second base now. Okay, less than 2 outs. We're gonna come off the front part of the base. At second base, I'm gonna give you my commands. From there, I'm gonna go through my signs, whatever it may be. I'm also gonna point to the outfielders like this. Okay, so you know where your outfielders are. I always say that. Okay, I think it's important because now you know where they are. If the guy's shallow and right, I may say, hey, shallow and right, okay? Or I may say, hey, they're all deep, right? They're all deep. Now, if you're an outfielder, you kind of get those commands, right? In and back, right? Now, if I point at you and you're an infielder and you're seeing me go like this to the right fielder, like I'm not going to yell out that he's shallow. I'm going to tell you with a visual, like, look, right field, he's shallow. And you need to understand that. So back, shallow, all right? In, okay? So if you're not an outfielder, you may not know those commands. So that's the benefit of being able to do this today. Okay, so you know where your outfielders are. I get a nice look. I come off the bag. So backing up, getting to my primary, eyes up, looking at the pitcher. You're okay. You're okay. Now I get into my secondary lead. Same thing as we talked about in part one. My shuffle. I want to make sure I break down the right side, keep my front hip slightly open. Okay, now I'm able to cross. Now the pitch has been thrown. Ball's on its way to the hitting zone. I'm in my secondary lead. Contact is not made. Now crossover and return back to the base. Hard crossover and return. Talked about it part one. Again, talking about it part two, second base here. Crossover and return. When I do my crossover, again, I want to pick up the second baseman, pick up the shortstop, okay? I'm going to have help from my base coaches also, okay? First base coach is going to have a good angle on both. Third base coach is going to have a good angle on both. If you don't see them covering up the base, you recover, look inside the diamond for the overthrow, right? On back to the pitcher or whatnot. That's how you take advantage of a team that's sleeping. If now you cross over and return, okay, shortstop bumping in, I need to get back to the base, hard crossover and return. If you do not see them covering up, again, recover, look inside the diamond for an overthrow back to the pitcher. Look for a way to put yourself in a position to advance to the next base, okay? So I'm not going to talk about steal starts, okay? But I will talk about dirt ball reads in this sense, where that's where shorten my primary, expand my secondary. If we can see what the catcher's calling, and maybe he's dumb enough to just go with one time with a runner on second base, or traditionally everyone goes second time with a runner on second base. Super simple. I mean, but you can't. I mean, if the team's going to give it to you, you got to pick it up. All right, you got to be able to watch that. Okay, so just another take to the offense. Try and use it in the summer. Try to use it in your summer league. See what's out there. If a guy's just going to do one sign, there's your chance. Maybe it's your opportunity to work on that. Okay, and translate that back out. Okay, so this time 2 outs. Okay, so now 2 outs, we want to be able to score on a hit, right? So now this is our aggressive. We're going to make sure we're finishing in, slightly deep, inside, a little bit outside the baseline. We're trying to make that nice, easy cut to third base. We want to hit that inside front corner. Good body tilt. Very similarly, how we talked about last week in part one at first base, making the turn to get to second base. So I'm going to take my lead off the deep part, the outfield portion of second base, the outfield point of second base. Again, I'm going to walk out, eyes up. First, I'm going to check my outfielders, know where they are. Okay, I'm good. Pitcher's got the ball. He's on the mound. He's going to get set. I'm going to take my eyes up. I'm going to make sure I'm walking off. I'm going to be a little deeper. Not going to be all the way on the outfield grass and then running in, because I don't need to go that way to come back in. Okay, so I want to make sure I finish somewhat in the baseline in this sense, okay, to make my good turn. Okay, so you hear me okay, I'm moving inside on the diagonal, you're okay, and now I'm going to shuffle, and I'm going to be, if it's 2 outs, track of the bat, I'm off. Good body tilt, run to third base, trying to score on a base hit, all right? Now, a lot of times, the shortstop plays a role here. How can we advance to third base? Okay, and there's different ways we're going to need to work on that from second. Okay, now the ball hit softly to our left. Okay, with less than 2 outs, we're going right, so we don't need to worry about that. But with less than 2 outs, we need to make a decision. A ball hits softly to our left. That's a play we can advance to third base on. Okay, a play that's in front of us where the shortstop's coming up. Think about it as a slow roller. We can get to third base on that. Okay. Now, a ball where the shortstop's going up the middle to his left, where the second baseman's coming to the middle, we can go on that. Okay, if we're not, this is types of plays where we're not forced to go. Okay, so there's no one at first base in that sense. Okay, line drives we already talked about. We're stepping back on line drive, seeing it through. Okay, so those are different types of ways where we can go on that. Now, what are some of the ones where we can't go? Right, maybe a ground ball right at the shortstop. Okay, because why? Because he's gonna boom. He's got a chance to guess. Again, when we're not forced to go, he's got a chance to do the 6-5 in the hole, which we talked about a little bit on the defensive side today. All right, so he has that opportunity to do this. We don't want to run into the out there. Okay, another play, the shortstop range into his left in that sense, unless it's completely in the 6 hole. Okay, where you read it right off the bat, downward angle. I see ground ball. I'm going. Okay, that's if you hesitate for just that little bit, boom, you need to recover. Okay. So I'll get back into it. So it's 1 out with nobody forcing me. I'm here. I get my secondary lead. Boom. Okay. I see downward angle. I'm off. Okay. Even though it's to my right. Okay. But if it's hit sharply, that's the one where I kind of got to put my feet around, shuffle, see the ball through, and then I can go. Okay. Because we don't want to run into that out at third base in that sense, where the 6-5 opportunity comes into play. All right. So that's the one where we're going to be here. We're shuffle, boom, secondary lead. I'm off. But now I need to get to the point where I'm going to flip around, make sure I see it through, and then I can get going to third base. Okay. Any questions on any of that? Tag ups, second base. Okay. So from second base, a couple of things on the tag up situation. We get what we call a 5-yard box. Okay. So now the ball is hit. I need to go back to the base. I read fly ball. I want to make sure I see the guy catch the baseball. Okay. Now, if the guy's ranging for it, as he gets closer to being settled underneath it, in your opinion, you're going to make sure you retreat back to the base. Okay. Because now you can possibly tag up. You're going to tag up on all foul balls. Anytime a ball goes in foul territory, you cannot advance. So you don't need to come down the line. You need to get back. Okay. So now this is still second base here. Tag up on all foul balls. You'll hear me verbalize that as well as the third base coach. Okay, so again, we're at second base here. Okay, let's take a fly ball to right field, routine fly ball where we're going to draw a throw. Okay, maybe we're a guy who has a reputation for being a good runner. I'm here at secondary. I see the ball go up. I'm going to get back to the base here because it looks routine. And now I see it. As long as it's from right center over, I'm going to keep my chest towards the middle of the diamond. Okay, I'm going to read the throw. Okay, see it, and then I'm off. All right, I'm going to draw a throw. Even if it's just a couple of hard steps, I want to make sure I draw that throw. Okay, if we're going, we better make sure we make it. All right, especially in that sense, if a guy's camped under, it's a medium length fly ball. Especially if there's no outs, we don't want to make that first out at first base. Okay, that's a real aggressive mistake. Okay, so now let's take it over to second base, center field, and over to the line. Okay, if it's in that sense, okay, we're going to get back, and we're going to read it this way. Okay, not like this, where we're reading the ball this way. Now I got to turn around to run. I want to make sure now my back is towards first base. I'm looking inside. I have this window to the line, center field to the line, and I can see it, and I'm reading it, okay? If he's there, if he's camped underneath it, boom, I can catch it, and then I'm off to my tag, okay? Again, we want to use the pitch part of the base to put our foot on to push off, okay? We don't want to be on the top part of the base. Why? Because the top part of the base is the equivalent of using this slate right here to push off. We're going to slip off the top of it with our metal cleats, okay? I can promise you that, especially if it's wet, all right? So any type of fly ball, any type of foul ball, we're tagging. It's not even up for debate in that sense. Okay? So, going to third base. Any questions on the rest of second base there? Last piece, third base. Okay, then we'll wrap it up. All right. So, just want to change a little bit of the angle here. So third base. Okay, so now you're on the pitcher's mound as if you're almost holding me on in this sense. Okay, home plate's going to be in that direction for me. All right, so third base, want to make sure we take our lead in foul territory. So the best way to do that, okay, is we're going to get out right away. All right. Now at third base, we don't necessarily want to make sure we're getting down the line too far unless the contact play is on. And you're seeing that a lot in the big leagues, and guys are like, oh, how did he get it? How did he get thrown out there in that spot? Or why did he go there? It was a ground ball to the third baseman. Because rule of thumb, fellas, usually is if you have one out, okay, the contact play is on. If you have no outs, the contact play most likely is not on, and you're going to see it through. Okay, so if you have one out, the contact play will be on. It's the third base. It's the third base. The runner on third's read downward angle. You're off. You're off on contact. Okay, you're reading downward angle. Okay, and you're off to the races. In that sense, yeah, you probably want to be pretty aggressive in your lead, both your primary or shorten your primary to expand your secondary. Again, I'm a big believer in this sense where you shorten your primary unless it's for unique situations, or expand your secondary. And again, the number of outs is going to dictate that. Okay, so if you want to come off the front part of the base to get out right away in foul territory, totally fine with me. I like to actually use the back part of the base in this. Okay, and it'll get me out that way. It's almost very similar to how I would take my lead off second base with 2 outs. Okay, except I'm going to do this sometimes at third base. I'm going to take my right foot out. Okay, and my left foot's going to allow me to get into foul territory. I won't be too much in foul territory, okay, because I want to be somewhat close to that line, but I want to make sure I'm clearly in foul territory because I don't want to be hit with the baseball in foul territory because then I'm out, okay? So very remedial right there, but I want to make sure that I'm in foul territory, okay? Now, let me just back this back up a second. All right, so now if I'm in foul territory with my lead here, I want to make sure my footwork is spot on, okay? Because my lead's going to be, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be left, right, down, okay, when the ball's on its way to the hitting zone. Why? Because that's how I'm walking out, right? I'm walking left foot off, right comes down, left foot, right foot, and I'm square. The last foot that I was going to hit was the one I just finished up with. That's how we walk, right? So now I'm here, okay? We're going to go left, right, and down, okay? In that sense. Let me do it one more time for you. Being here, okay? I'm going to be in an aggressive lead. Oh, not so much of an aggressive, but I want to be really ready to move if I can. Okay, especially with 2 outs because we're going cracking the bat. We're going to score. Dirt ball read. We're going to go. Okay, we're going to be really aggressive in that spot. So with 2 outs, we're going. With 1 out with the contact play on, we need to be again real aggressive, but make sure we see downward angle. With nobody out, most of the time we're going to see it through. We could be a little bit more relaxed. So we're going to be left, right, down. Okay, and we're going to follow the ball on its way to the hitting zone. Okay, if the ball is not put in play. Okay, now at this point, I'm still in foul territory, but once I finish up, I'm going to cross over back into fair territory. Now, my right foot was the last foot I hit down. I'm going to step back inside the baseline with my left foot, okay, and I'm going to swing myself around with my right foot. Now I'm inside the baseline, and you can clearly see I'm inside third base. Now I've taken the lane away. This is done on purpose for the catcher to throw. He no longer has that inside lane to throw. So as I go back, again, I pick up the third baseman's eyes. If I don't see the third baseman covering or breaking the cover, or he's off the line because the lefty's up or something, then I can recover. Okay, so I'm going to recover and look inside for anything funny that happens that I maybe could exploit, take advantage of. If it's a first and third, or even more so to pay attention in that spot. Okay, if he does cover up at third base, I'm just going to make sure I get back, and I'm going to try and get a little bit wide with my back. Okay, again, so if he throws down, he hits me, all right, so be it. I'm going to make sure I see that overthrow, and I'm going to advance. So again, finishing in foul territory with our primary lead. Okay, left, right, down. Step back inside with the left foot. Turn with my right. Spin around. Take that line away. If he doesn't cover up after I pick up his eyes, boom, I recover, look for the overthrow, and I get back to the base, okay? Staying athletic the whole time, okay? Tagging up, fly balls, third base, okay? Again, everywhere on the field, from the left field line all the way over the right field, okay? I'm going to be this way, okay? Chest is going to face the field in this line of sight, okay? we're not going to tag up with a ball over that shoulder like this. The only time we're going to turn our back to the field in this sense on this is if the ball's in foul territory down the left field line, okay? It's the only time you're going to end up in this because that's the only shot you have to keep the line of sight, hear your third base coach, okay, and be able to process the catch to be able to get off the base, okay? But every other time, you're going to be in this mode where your chest is out towards the field, okay? Left field line over, okay? Again, tag up on all foul balls. As soon as you see the ball go foul, even if it's right over the first base dugout, tag up because you know what? If the catcher goes out for that ball too, they may leave the plate unoccupied. And then it's a foot race between the catcher, the pitcher, the first baseman, whoever caught that ball to get you out of third base, get you out of the plate in that sense. And we've had that play happen before, okay? So again, remember when we tag up, okay, left foot on the base, we want to get into that sprinter start, keeping our foot on the front part of the base, using the pitched part of the base to push ourselves off as a starting block to propel ourselves like a sprinter, okay? Not on the top part of the base. If you go on the top part of the base, like I said before, you're going to slip right off when you go to push, especially on a wet day like this when we're playing on turf. It'll fall on your face or it's going to cost us a run in that spot, and we don't want to see that happen. And unfortunately, we've had that play happen before, okay? So again, contact play on with one out, okay, super important. Paying attention, read downward angle, that's your read, okay? The contact play is on. You're forcing the infield to make the play. If you're dead, you're dead. The contact play is a prescribed play. We've already designed that play. Everyone knows the play is on. It's usually with one out. That's what's going to happen. That's why you'll see the guys up, okay? Even if it's right to the shortstop, okay, you're done. Big deal, okay? Force that guy to make the play at the plate, all right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to force them to make a play. So we may make that happen with the offensive sputtering. Maybe it's the bottom of the lineup where the 9 hitters on deck or the 8 hitters on deck and the 7 hitter just hit that ground ball. We may put that contact play on because we want to take our chance there. We want to take our chance there. Maybe it creates a first and third situation in that spot, right? Or because if you have runners on second and third, you put that contact play on. The guy at second, he's forcing this guy to come over to third, even though he's not happening. But we have the contact play on, so that means he's coming to you at third. So you don't want to go back and forth in a rundown. Your head's down, you're running towards the plate. You're done, you get thrown out, but it's a pre-designed play that we're going to have in that sense. Now think about the situation. Now it's first and third with 2 outs, bottom of the order's up. Maybe now it gives us some more options as an offense. We have a first and third play we can put on. Maybe we can run a delay steal. Maybe we can run something or some other pre-designed play that maybe can exploit. We can try and steal a run there with 2 outs and a 9 hitter up, or maybe it's a leadoff guy and it gives us a little bit more of a chance to do something different. Okay, but just a thought. That's how the logic runs through my head. I'm sure it's very similarly with some of the high school coaches that maybe you played for, or even in the summer. But use some of this stuff in the summer there, fellas. I think it's an important thing. Getting down the line again, not getting too far down the line where now you have vulnerability to get back picked. In that sense, if somebody comes up throwing in that sense, you might as well just keep going. I'm a big believer in that, unless you're already going back to the base. But again, you got to make sure that the third baseman is covering. If he's not, or if he lulls you to sleep in that spot, you still got to make sure you're on your toes in that spot. So aggressive dirt ball reads, understanding the commands on what's going on the field, I think is another thing that's super important. But again, good communication is how we started this, and that's how we'll wrap it. Any questions on any of that on the base running side of things? One more point on the being a runner at third base with less than 2 outs there, or even with 2 outs. If a squeeze is on or a safety squeeze is on, remember a safety squeeze. And we haven't talked about much about signs, but safety squeeze means get the bunt down. The batter has to get the bunt down for you to run. Okay, that's a safety squeeze. It's a safety net for us. Okay, now if it's a dead squeeze, you're running. It turns into a straight steal of home, essentially. You're running to home like as if you were stealing, okay? And the batter's job now, as we talked about in the bunting segment, is to get that bunt down no matter where it is pitched, okay? Not taking a swing. He's coming straight through. You're sliding, right? You want to make sure he gets that bunt down, you go. Free ribby, another thing we talked about being a part of our offense, right? Maybe runners on second and third with less than 2 outs. First baseman now is back, or even with the base. All we got to do is get it down on the right-hand side. If we can push it, make the second baseman feel the ball, even more so, free ribby, right? Easy chance for that guy to score. Even if you're done at first base, it's a free ribby. It designs the play for us. It controls where we're going to make contact and controls the part of the field we're going to put the ball in play on. So again, just to remind you on that, squeeze, all right, regular squeeze, get the bunt down. Okay, guys got to bunt it anywhere. Straight steal of home is what the runner's doing. Safety squeeze, the bunt has to get down before you can advance, okay, before you can move. Gets a little tricky when you have second and third because you don't want that guy running down your neck. So again, you have to pay attention. If we're seeing it through, the guy at second base, if he's not being forced by the guy, if there's no one at first, he's not being forced to advance with less than 2 outs, guess what? We're seeing it through. That means the guy on third base has to see that ball go through, right? So ground ball left side, you see it through, you'll hear me say, go, okay? We're not talking about just a line drive in that sense. We're talking about a ground ball, see it through the infield, make sure it gets through, okay? You'll also hear me say, make sure it gets, anywhere but the pitcher, or if first baseman's up because he's holding the runner or something like that with the runner on first, anywhere but pitcher and first, anywhere but the corners and pitcher, we're going to see it through on. So ground ball to the middle infield, boom, we're going to advance, okay? Even with whether there's no runner on the first base or not, okay? Any other questions?